Alright, so as much as I'm not a fan of calculated items, there are two more features that I want to walk you through in case you do choose to use them. And those features are in the Analyze tab, under the Fields, Items, and Sets menu, and they're called Solve Order and List Formulas. So to demonstrate those, I actually need to recreate some calculated items. So first things first, let's ungroup this rating field that we'd created. So now we just have our original list of 4 ratings. And I'm going to go ahead and create that same calculated item that we did in the last lecture called kids. And kids will equal G ratings plus PG. Press OK. Let's also go into the design options and turn off our grand totals. And now what I want to do is actually pull color and black and white into the columns field. And it looks like I actually have 3 values, one of which is this B and W version, which doesn't seem to have any data. So I can just filter that one out and only include black and white and color. And now with one of these 2 column headers selected, I can go back into my fields, items, and sets and create a second calculated item. In this case, I'm going to call it %color. And the formula here will be color divided by the sum of black and white and color. So essentially, this will return the % of total revenue driven by color films out of the total. So color divided by black and white plus color. Okay, and there it is. Now, one other minor annoyance of working with calculated items is that you lose a bit of flexibility in terms of cell formatting. So this is a percentage that I just created, but if I right-click and choose number format as a percentage, you'll see that it also converts these revenue totals to percentages as well, which really doesn't make any sense. So I can undo that, and I can get around that by forcing it into a percentage by selecting the entire column D, and from the home menu simply choosing percentage there. So there you have it. This is our view that now contains 2 calculated items. This row here is defined by the kids calculation, which is G plus PG, and this column here is defined by the %color calculation, which is color divided by both columns summed together. Now the catch is that this one cell, D15, is actually technically impacted by both of these calculations. And when that's the case, one of the 2 needs to take priority. And that's exactly what the solve order is used for. So if we go back into Analyze and choose Solve Order, here it lists out the 2 calculated item formulas that I have in place in this pivot table. I've got my kids rating, which is G plus PG, and I've got my %color, which is color over black and white plus color. You see this note at the bottom that says if the value in a pivot table cell is affected by 2 or more calculated items, which cell D15 in this case is, then the value is determined by the last formula in the solve order, which is the %color calculation. And that is what we want, and that is what's going on here. So the %color is taking 47.66 billion, dividing it by the sum of these 2 numbers, and returning 99%. If, however, we took this kids rating and moved it down into the priority slot and closed the dialog box, now if we reformat this as a percentage, now you can see that the kids calculation, which is row 11 plus row 12, is taking priority. So it's resulting in 100% plus 98 equals 198%, which obviously isn't what we want in this particular case. So let's jump back to Analyze, open up our solve order, and we'll shift %color back down into the priority slot, and that will adjust back. And now finally, you have this list formulas option. And when you launch the list formulas option, Excel will create a brand new sheet summarizing all of your calculated fields and calculated item formulas along with the respective solve orders. So if you're dealing with a worksheet with 10 or 20 or hundreds of different formulas and calculated items, this can be a really nice way to automatically document how those formulas are working and which ones are taking priority. But again, if you're keeping it relatively simple, if you're primarily using calculated fields as opposed to items, you may or may not ever need to use either of these tools. So I'm going to go ahead and delete this sheet. And there you have it, solve order and list formulas.